So like I said, I hope you guys are having a great day. Hopefully you can hear me. You should be able to hear me now. I'll get this down eventually. So every time it gets better. So I hope you guys, you can, can bear with me here. It should be sound now. You guys should be getting some sound now. So it should be a little bit delayed. So we'll see. So it should be some sound coming through right now. So give me a second. Yeah, we should have sound now. So like I said, I apologize is that we're working through issues trying to move from Instagram to YouTube. And I think I'm going to do it solely on YouTube going forward. I think this is a better platform. I think that that we could do better here. I think we can get more information to the people like this, right? So I'm going to show you, I got some graphics prepared tonight. I got some stuff. I could do a lot more on YouTube. I'm starting to like YouTube more. And I think that it'd be better for everybody if we just do most of it on YouTube, and I could do like quick live still on Instagram, but I think that I'm going to do it on, from now on here on YouTube. So I may do it sometime on Instagram, maybe once a month on Instagram, 3 times a month on YouTube. So we got a great strategy Sunday to talk about tonight. We got, give me a second. We're going to talk about will artificial intelligence stocks continue? Then we're going to talk about earnings call. I had a user in the CNC ask me to explain what earnings calls were, and how they affect stocks. He was confused on that. So I figured it'd be a great opportunity to explain what earnings calls are, how they affect the stock, what the run-up is to the earnings call, how you play options. So we'll spend about 5-10 minutes on that. I want to talk about the Bitcoin halving because I want to continue to talk about this because it's very, very important that you understand what it is, right? It's very important that you understand what the Bitcoin halving is. And I want to break it down once more so that people can understand it. Then I want to talk about AirBnB stocks. I think there's a good opportunity here for Airbnb stocks to do some serious damage in the market this year. And we're going to explain why. We're going to talk about real estate because you guys know that I've started getting into real estate over the last 2 to 3, ever since the pandemic. I bought my first real estate property that was not my own house in the beginning of the pandemic because I sensed that there would be a mass movement to Florida and Puerto Rico, but Puerto Rico is still a little bit off. I think Puerto Rico is a lot longer, but so I was right, end up making 40-50% on my investment so far. And I'm continuing to invest in Florida real estate and probably Puerto Rican real estate. So I just want to talk a little bit about that, touch on it, because I'm a person that invests in anything, right? I'm not one person that says, look, man, I only can invest in real estate. I invest where there's opportunity. Where there's opportunity, my background is tech, so it mostly is in tech. But wherever there's opportunity, I'm willing to take a look and invest. But like I said, my background is tech. I understand tech more than any other subject on earth. So I am more likely to invest in things that I believe in. But other than that, I'll invest in anything. I'll invest in a porta potty company if the numbers are right, right? Last thing I want to talk about is we're going to do an XRP update, talk about where things are, quick update so we know where things are. So like I said, is that we want to talk about several things today. So yeah, so I don't know what happened to that. So we're going to talk about a lot of things today. I'm sorry I froze. So we're going to talk about a lot of things today. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Litecoin halving that's happening later on this month. So yeah, it should refresh. Don't worry about it. So you guys should still be able to hear me at least, but don't worry. Give me a second. Yeah, so we should be okay. So let's move on. So like I said, we want to talk about, will AI continue first? And like, give me some, you got to give me a few seconds here. I gotta figure out the kinks. I'm not an audio technical person, so I'm trying to do this all on my own. I don't want to bring in a whole staff on a Sunday. Before we get into our story, I tried to bring in an audio visual studio staff maybe about 2 years ago. It's very difficult to get people to come on a Sunday night. It's very difficult to get people to come on a Sunday night, right? And I had a staff one time, there was always some problem, they couldn't come or whatever. It was always something, so I decided just to do it all myself. So we're going to move on. So back to what I was saying, is I want to talk a little bit about, I want to talk a little bit about a story. I want to start with a story, right? And some of you guys have heard the story before. And I haven't told this story in about a couple of years, right? But I want to tell this story because I want to address, because we're talking about the Bitcoin halving. A lot of people lost a lot of money because they panicked when Bitcoin crashed. And they also panicked when stocks crashed. They panicked when real estate crashed. People lose a lot of money by panicking when things fall. Panic is one of the biggest things that we do in life that causes so much financial damage. And I want to talk about why, panic is bad. But I want to express that in a story, right? So I want to talk about, let's go back to 2004, 2005? It was one of those, around that time, right? So if you guys know my background, when I was in college, I studied both computer science and languages at the same time. I got 2 concurrent bachelor degrees in 5 years. So I got it's not 2 majors, it's 2 complete bachelor's degrees, right? So I did whatever you had to do for one bachelor degree, then an entire different path on another bachelor degree. So now I have 2 bachelor degrees, right? Because I really wanted to learn a lot about Latin America culture, Latin American language, how language is derived, Latin-based languages, all that stuff is romantic languages. I really enjoyed that stuff, but I really enjoyed computer science at the same time. So I didn't want to give up either one. So I ended up doing 2 degree paths, right? And ended up getting 2 bachelor degrees. So part of my requirement for that language degree was to spend a year in Mexico. Well, it may have been, so it wasn't a full year, but it was some months. But it was considered a school year. You know, a school year is not a full year. It's only from the fall into the spring, then you got the summers off. So it's like 6-7 months really. So I ended up going to Mexico for a year to study abroad. And during that time, you have to live like they live. You have to live like that. That's how you get immersed in the language. Now, my best friend at the time was there. He actually spent a year prior to that in Mexico before I got there. So I'm in Mexico about 3-4 months. I'm still a newbie in Mexico. Right? So we're at school. We're at lunch. Some friends of ours comes over, some young ladies, and they're like, "Hey, Armando," his name was Anthony. Anthony, you want to come we having a party this weekend at our house. Now it's a little bit outside the city, in the country. El Campo se llama. You come onto the Campo, and we got a family house out there. We want you guys to come. The family would love to meet you. You guys are amazing. So, all right. So yeah, we'll be there. Right. So took a bus, go out about 40-50 minutes outside of town. And for about 5 minutes before we arrived to this place, there was nothing, just trees and cactuses. If you've been in Mexico, cactuses, right? So cactuses all the way there. So all of a sudden on the horizon, there rises out this big compound. Almost looked like the Roman Colosseum, almost in that same fashion. It was a circle. It was an open top, and it was circle, and it was it was no windows. It was just like almost a cylinder of concrete and bricks or whatever it's made out of, right? So we get up to the front. So we're like, who do we call? So we had phones at the time. So my friend pulls out his phone. He calls her name. I don't want to say her name because the story is I don't want to say anybody's name, but the story gets kind of crazy at the end. So he pulls out his phone and said, "Hey, where do we get in?" She said, "Well, do you see those two big doors at the front?" "What you mean, those 25-foot doors?" She's like, "Yeah, that's the door. That's the only way in and out. You have to go there. You have to knock on the door." So we knock on the door, doom, doom, doom. A little slide comes out. All you see is eyes. "Who are you?" "Well, this young lady invited us to the party." So they close the slide, go back to the thing. 2 minutes comes by, he comes back, boom. These 30-foot doors open up slow. And inside this, remember, outside of this cylinder is desert. On the inside is an oasis. Water fountains and palm trees, beautiful plants. One of the most beautiful sights I've ever seen in my life. So as I walk past this door, now you can't see when the door is open, there's kids playing and people cooking over there. And it was maybe 30, 40 people just in a beautiful, beautiful, one of the most, it's almost like the gates of heaven just opened. That's how beautiful this place was. So there's people, of course, behind the door opening it. So we walk in, wow, you're amazed. You're looking around. Out of the corner of my eye, I see a man on the wall at the top. So, well, that's probably some dude. I see some other men around the top of this cylinder. And it didn't hit me at first. Like, oh, well, I don't know. I'm in Mexico. I don't know what's going on. So as the doors close behind us, the men that are closing the door have 2 AK-47s. In their hand as they're closing the door. And then I start getting scared. Now I'm looking around. Every single man in the compound has a gun on their hip. Now I'm looking around. I look at the top again of those men. Those men also got AK-47s on the top of the cylinder. Panic started to wash over me. The doors are closed and they're locked. You ain't getting out. It was a sense of panic. I realized I'm in a cartel compound. And panic visually starts coming over me. My friend who had already been in Mexico, already been around these types of things, leans over and whispers to me, Armando, calm down. Are you going to get us killed? He's Armando, you got to calm down. And I calmed myself down and went forward, right? People started coming up to us. They started, having fun. Over time, my calmness actually, even though everybody had guns, they were the nicest people I ever saw. Some of the nice people I ever met in my life. I had one of my best memories in my life. And I'm sorry to say it was behind that compound. We spent about 4 hours there. The people treated us amazingly. They gave us anything we wanted to eat and drink. I mean, they were very, very good to us, right? Made a lot of good friends that I talked to for years afterwards. And there was 2 things that I learned from that situation. One was that there's good people, everybody in the world has good in them if you just are willing to accept it. The 2 is the financial lesson. If you panic, things will be worse. When you're in a situation that you think is bad, you can't panic. If you panic, it will be worse. The best thing you can do going forward is to be calm, patient, and straightforward on your path. Because if you panic, you will always make a horrible decision. It's going to get you in a horrible, dangerous situation. It also applies to finances. When stocks fall and I panic, it's going to be a bad outcome. When crypto falls and I panic, it's going to be a bad income. The real estate market falls. I panic. I'm going to sell my house at a loss because I panicked. Panic is one of the worst things you could do almost in any situation. Well, when I was younger, I would often think, how did the Navy SEALs get airdropped into a dangerous situation, complete their job, execute perfectly, complete their objectives, completely calm, with no panic? And this one thing is because they've been trained to do it. They know what to expect. They've done it time and time again. There's no room left in their brain for panic. And that's what we have to do when we go down this financial path. We have to learn, we have to grow, we have to educate ourselves. So when the time comes where there can be a great opportunity, great loss, or whatever it may be, you won't panic, but you'll execute. And that's what the CNC provides. We have, and the second thing, right? I'm sorry, I forgot one point. Second thing is that the Navy SEAL also knows that his boy is right next to him. So he understands he's been in this situation 100 times before, through training, through exercises, through education. And his friend is next to him. He has a community, a tight knit of SEALs around him, and he also has the training. Those 2 things help him execute that job efficiently without panicking. And like I said, that's what the CNC provides. We got a team of warriors, a team of winners, a circle of winners around you that will help you execute in the situations where you need to. We've been consistently making money in the CNC. We made a lot of money on C3.AI last week, as I predicted on last week's Strategy Sunday. If you want to join the CNC, text the word CNC to 888-709-2614, the bottom of the screen. So let's move on. So we're going to talk about, will AI continue? And we're going to talk about earnings call. Before we do that, I need you guys to do two things for me. I got 700 people in this live tonight, but only 96 likes. I should have at least 700 likes on this live. I'm going to sit and wait for you guys to like this content. We got 97 likes, man. Y'all don't want to like this content for nothing, but also share the content if you can. 98 likes. Y'all don't want to like it at all, man. That's crazy. So, like I said, we're going to talk about three things. We're going to talk about, will AI continue, earnings calls, Bitcoin halving. Then we're going to talk about Airbnb and real estate. So let's talk a little bit about, will AI continue? What's going to happen? We're going to talk a little bit about hype cycles, what happens when, we're going to talk about some opportunities that are still out there for AI stocks. So I'm going to give you guys a second. Like the content, share the content. Give me about 10 seconds. So let's move on. So we got a lot to talk about. Like I said, we're going to talk about AI stocks a little bit before we go. So like I said, is that last week we predicted C3.AI to explode. That's exactly what happened. We expected the earnings call. We talked about over the last weeks what would happen. There will be a lull for 2 weeks. There will be an explosion in this week, which happened. It went up about 30%, 25-30% last week. And it was on Friday was the biggest one-day gain in a month, right? It went up about 28%, I think, in one day, right? And that was because there was a positive earnings call, right? And also there was a strong forecast that AI would continue to do well in the AI hype cycle. Now, some people say, what's a hype cycle? So a hype cycle, this is what's important to understand what a hype cycle is. Whenever there's a new technology, concept, or product that takes over the marketplace that a lot of people are excited about in the stock market, what you're going to see is what's called a hype cycle. And what that means, and that always happens, it always will happen. So you have to be conscious of that happening. What happens is that, what a hype cycle, whenever there's a new technology, a new product, new service, what happens is that people get overly excited about it, throw a lot of money into it. So it's normally overbought. It's going to be an overbought, right? Too many people are going to buy it. It's going to be overbought. And then it's going to retract from that overbought position. And then it's going to be steady going forward. Now, that's needed when a new product or service come out, because that new money coming in as investment in stocks, whatever, allows investment, allows research and development in the new product or service. So that's needed for the technology to do well. But a lot of beginning investors, they confuse this hype cycle and burst, bubble and burst, whatever you want to call it, with the product is done or the service is over. And in the late 90s, it happened with the internet boom. Same thing. In the late 90s, early 2000s, millions and billions of dollars, maybe even trillions of dollars went into this new concept called the internet. Any company that had .com at the end of their name got millions and millions of dollars of investment. So with that being said, Too much money went into .com. That's why they call it the .com boom and the .com burst. The .com burst in the early 2000s cost a lot of people a lot of money, and a lot of people use that as an example to say that the internet was just a fad. It's just a fad. That right there showed you it burst. People lost money, but that's part of the cycle of a new product or service coming to market. When the real innovation happens, and most people get the most money when the hype cycle bursts, they either hold on or reinvest into their, what just happened? I said either hold on or reinvest into their, oh yeah, I'm way behind. So they either hold on or reinvest into these positions, and they end up making a lot more money in the long term. And we're going to talk about that a little bit with the Bitcoin halving coming up later. So like I said, C3.AI is probably we had our analyst Rogers look at the stock. So we were able to tell that if this is the situation that could happen with C3.AI, right? Is that there's some big reports coming out next week. The jobs report and another economic report from the government, which could affect the stock market. If that happens, it's going to kill any growth in C3.AI. But Monday and Tuesday, there's a very strong chance that this run could continue. Now, what we've looked at under technical analysis, like I said, if you want to know more about that, we're going to talk about that in the CNC after this live. What we've taken a look at in the technical analysis is that what's more likely to happen is on Monday, it may be a little drop in the morning. Monday and Tuesday, there may be a run up. Now, there's two things we have to look at. There's one thing is that right now, after hours, C3.AI is at $28.65. It has to pass $29.50 in order for it to continue its run. Now, that's going to be major resistance at $29.50, right? So once it passes $29.50, there's a highly likelihood it's going to go on to $32, right? If that happens, the situation we just laid out is going to happen quickly on Monday, Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. If it continues to run, it's going to happen over 2 days. If it doesn't run, it's going to be over quickly. So those are the two likely scenarios for C3.AI. Long term, it's going to continue to grow. Or 6 months, a year, maybe a year and a half, I don't see any problem with C3.AI getting to $50 a share. So now you have your short term. And I'm not telling you what to do. Like I said, you do it yourself. Do whatever. I'm just telling you what we're doing. Short term is that's going to happen. It could be a 20, 30% drawdown after what we just said happens. But long term, it's going to $50. So there's going to be some ups and downs along the way, but long term, you're better off. Now you got a short term strategy and you got a long term strategy. Now, if you want to join the CNC, click the link in the, there's a link in the caption or the definite, what do you call it? The description of the video. And also at the bottom of the screen, you see text CNC to 888-709-2614. So now I want to talk a little bit about our earnings calls. Before we do that, I need you guys to like the content. We only got 300 likes, but it's 700 people in here. Share the content with your friends. If you're online, share it on your Facebook page, whatever you can. I'll give you guys about 5 to 10 seconds to do that. Somebody said, we want long-term strategies. I just told you a long-term strategy, Chevy. Just buy I'm not telling you, I'm just saying what I'm doing. Just buy C3.AI and wait a year. That's the strategy. We just said it. Now, I want to talk a little bit about earnings call. Then we're going to talk about AirBnB, which is another stock I think is going to do well. We're going to talk about another stock, AI stock. Actually, we're going to talk about that now. We'll talk about another AI stock that I think is going to do well. Now, the second AI stock I want to talk about is a pick and shovel strategy. Now, for those of you who don't know what the pick and shovel strategy is, I want to say it quickly. I know some of y'all heard this before. In the 1849 gold rush, A lot of people went to San Francisco to get gold. It was in the newspapers. It was all over the place. And all the telegrams or whatever is gold in San Francisco. The first people got there early and made all the money. They went back and told everybody. Then 10 times as many people came in the second wave. Now, the smart people realize there's not enough gold for those people. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sell the picks and the shovels and other things they need to the second wave that's coming. So the first wave in the gold rush made their money off gold. The second wave made their money off selling the picks and shovels to the people who were looking for gold. That's called the pick and shovel strategy. We still do that in stocks today. So we did that with NVIDIA. NVIDIA gave us great returns over the last 2 months, but there's another one that's lagging out there behind that has the same profile, same company structure, everything that NVIDIA has, but it's lagging behind about a month. So by using the same strategy we did on NVIDIA, we can look at it and do the same strategy on this other company. And this company's name, some of you guys already know, is called AMD. It's the other big processor companies, Intel, AMD, and NVIDIA. That's pretty much all the processor companies in the world. And I like these companies because it's extremely difficult to, if you guys, anybody knows about making processors, creating processors, it takes a lot of capital to create a manufacturing place to create chips, processing chips, stuff like that. So it's very difficult for any company to challenge these three companies. So they really have a place set in the stone. And like I said, AMD, I think it's one of the leading processors of graphic processing units, the leading providers of graphic processing units in the world. And that's what NVIDIA is. NVIDIA is number one, AMD is number two, right? AI, regardless of how you feel about it, regardless of how you don't want it to happen, it's coming and it's not going to be stopped. Even if AI, and I'm going to say this too, some people get mad, even if AI is going to kill us all. And I know we watched The Terminator. I know we watched The Matrix. I know we watched all these other movies. Even if AI is going to kill us, it's still going to happen because of capitalism and our economic system. There's no way around it. It's coming. I don't think that's the outcome, but some people do. But there's no way around it. It's no way to stop it. It's too much money in AI for them to stop development. So development will continue until the point of what we call a singularity, when they actually take over intelligence from human beings. So that's going to happen regardless. I don't know if it's going to be 5, 10, 50 years. Nobody knows. But it's happening regardless, right? So there's no stopping it. It's going to happen. So with that being said, we can profit from some of the things. Now, I don't think AI is bad. I think it's just benign. It's not going to be bad or good. It's just going to be something around us. But some people think it's evil, but I don't think that. So AMD is the second one out there that I think is going to be, it's a little bit behind the NVIDIA. It's going to do some of the same things that NVIDIA did last month. I think that's coming this month. And also, like I said, is AI. Like a computer only needs 2 chips normally, unless you're running a gaming computer or something. A computer only needs one CPU and it needs one graphic processing card. And that's really it, right? But AI systems need sometimes hundreds of cards, right? Because some AI systems have visuals. They process large amounts of data. They may need 10 processors to do that in parallel. They need a lot. AI, the reason why AI has been able to be to the point of where it says all of a sudden the average person perceives AI as all of a sudden being everywhere. Now, we always had the software know-how to make AI work, but we didn't have the hardware to process large amounts of data fast. That was the problem. That's our biggest problem in technical innovation is hardware. Software we got down. Software is normally 10, 15 years ahead of where hardware is at. It's hardware is the problem. The demand, we can't get enough chips. If during the pandemic, I bought a Cadillac in 2023 and I'm missing some features in my Cadillac. Why am I Escalade? Why would I I can't do certain things in my Escalade. Now, what's wrong with my Escalade? Well, it was a chip shortage. We didn't put those features in. Chips are a commodity that's very difficult because of the natural resources, because of the know-how, because of all these things to acquire. And that's what makes these companies like NVIDIA, AMD, Intel, and all those companies very attractive, is because they actually create a commodity They create it out of nothing and they sell it to the market. And they're the only ones that can do this. So I like investing in these long-term. And AI is going to increase the demand for chips 10, maybe 5 or 10-fold. Like I said, a computer will only need 2 chips. So now we're going to have robotics in our house, this and that. The average person may consume 10 chips a year after all this is said and done. So I want to talk about one last thing. The Bitcoin halving, right? Before we do that, I need you guys to like the content. We got 400 likes, but we got 300 new people in here. Like the video, share the video with your friends, and drop a comment if you want. So we got 428 likes, but 700 people. Man, some of y'all refuse to like the content. That's crazy, right? That's some crazy stuff. Let's move on. Bitcoin halving, right? So I want to talk a little bit about the Bitcoin halving for people who don't understand and don't know what it is, because it's very important that you understand this. Very important. For those of you who have followed me for 3-4 years, we know we went through the whole cycle once. And I like to do that with people, because once you go through an entire cycle from beginning to end, it's almost like the wool is pulled back from your eyes. Now you understand how the world works. Like Stephanie just said, you understand that this is a cycle that's been happening for hundreds of years. They use the media, the power, whoever controls the information flow to trick you into selling your assets or forgetting about something while they buy it back up in the accumulation phase and then sell it back to you in this distribution phase. And then we always wonder in societies, why does the rich continue to get richer? And then we got all these reasons why, because they hold us down or they don't do this. It's 2 reasons: information flow and market cycles. The market cycle pulls money from people in poverty every so often. And it collects into the wealthy 1% because it's information flow. They use 2 things against you. They use information. They use your fear and your greed against you, your emotions against you. They use those 2 things to siphon money from the middle class and the poverty, people in poverty, to the top 1%. They've been doing it for hundreds of years. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It was a time that the CEO of a company in the early 2000s may only made like 20 times more than the average man. So if the average man, let's say he made $50, the CEO of a company would make like $1 million, and that would be good. 50,000, average person makes 50, CEO makes $1 million. That's good. But now the CEO and owners of companies can make thousands of times more than the average person. Thousands and thousands. So the average CEO of a Fortune 500 company makes more than the average person the first day of work on January 1st. That day before lunchtime, he made more than the average man made his entire year at work. And that's because of information flow. And that's because of emotions, right? It's because, and I'm not saying each individual person, no, but I'm saying the whole system, right? Because each individual person is different, but the whole system. Let's move on. So like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about the Bitcoin halving. So like I said, every 4 years, and this is the thing I like about Bitcoin, is that the next question people are going to ask me is that, how do I know when the cycle starts, when it begins, whenever? But it has to do with, you just have to be able to see the environment and then judge where you're at in the cycle, right? Like right now, we could be at the beginning of a bull cycle in the stock market, but it's not 100%. You know, we have to kind of, it's almost like you using educated guesses to figure out where you are. And then most of the time, if you do it right, you'll figure out where you are in stocks, real estate, or whatever, if you know what you're doing. The thing I like about Bitcoin is that there's an event that happens every 4 years that explicitly starts the cycle. It's been happening since the inception of Bitcoin. And once this event happens, you got 6 months, there's a run up in Bitcoin, 18-month run up, there's a drop down, then there's a lull period for a year and a half, and then it starts all over again. It's been happening since the inception of Bitcoin. And we predicted it. If you guys, some of you guys been with me for 2-3 years, we made an incredible amount of money in 2020, early 21 by predicting this exact cycle. Now, it wasn't hard to do. It was because we understood how the Bitcoin halving works. Now, for people who don't know what the Bitcoin halving is. Also, before I continue, if you're not subscribed to my channel, go ahead and subscribe right now. I'll give you guys a second. Somebody says, Roberto says, I've been waiting my whole life for AI. Me too. So we're together in that. I've been waiting for it my whole life too. So I've always been interested in this stuff. But back to what I was saying is every 4 years there's a halving in Bitcoin. Now, the reason why this happens every 4 years, it's not actually on years. I like to say that because somebody come in there and say, oh, Armando, it's not years. It's technically not years. It's block time. But it happens every 4 years because the block time ends up being exactly around 4 years roughly. So the reason why this happens is because the creator of Bitcoin wanted to create scarcity in the system. So he said, he says, how do you create scarcity? Well, the way you create scarcity is by cutting the supply of something. For example, if we woke up in the morning and you saw on the news that they were going to cut the supply of oil coming from the Middle East, gas prices would skyrocket, right? It's pretty simple, supply and demand. You cut the supply of something that's being created or coming out of the ground or whatever, you're going to affect the price. So he says, well, I want to make a system in which every 10 minutes, Bitcoin are created through a process called mining. So in every 4 years, I'm going to cut that supply by half. Go back to 2020, it was 12.5. Right now it's 6.25. In March of 2024, to be 3.125. So why is this important? It's because every single time Bitcoin is halved, the price is skyrocketed. Every single time, roughly 4 to 6 months after that event happens, the price skyrockets. It's not immediate. It's not going, the next day it doesn't happen. It normally happens a few months afterwards because there's a supply shock in the system. All of a sudden, there's not enough Bitcoins being sold. So the price has to adjust to account for that, right? So I want to share with you a chart. Now, I spent time on this chart because I want to really show you guys, right? Because a lot of people say, Armando, you gave up on Bitcoin, you gave up on crypto. Now, I didn't give up on it. It's just nothing to talk about no more. Like what? It's going to be in a lull until middle of 2024. Not much is going to be happening. There's not going to be much excitement. It's going to be roughly the same. It's going to be what we call range bound between two prices, probably 20,000 and 40,000. So it'll go up and come back down, go up and cut. That's what happens in bear markets, in the crypto winners, we call them. So it'll go up and everybody get excited and goes right back to where it was. It continues to do that for almost a year. It will, I believe it's going to do that until the middle of 2024, maybe autumn of 2024. It'll go up to 25,000. Everybody get excited and go right back to 20. That's what happens in crypto winners because there's nothing that keeps the supply is the same. So there's nothing really keeping the price from not going, not dropping back to where it was. So it'll be range bound between two numbers, I think 20 and 40 into 2024, probably middle or late 2024. So I made this chart because I wanted people to see this, right? It's called the halving chart. So yeah, you should have audio now. Sorry about that. So like I said, is that we're back we're gonna look at this chart because I want you guys to know what happens here. And I tried to make it like color coded so we can understand it a little bit better. I'm getting better every week. So next week I'm gonna make sure that we don't have any of these problems. I may just hire somebody to come on if you guys know anybody in Tampa that's free from 9 to 11. Now let's say 8 to 10, 8 to 11 on that knows they can be an assistant 8 to 11 on Sunday nights. Let me know. There should be audio now. You should have audio. You should have audio. Yeah, you should have audio now. Let me know if you guys have audio. Okay. So like I said, is that if we take a look at this chart, if you look at the beginning, right, November, let's go. We're going to go from left to right. We're going to talk about the events that happened. Now the black lines we see are the halvings. And this is just the previous two halvings that happened in Bitcoin. In the background, we see the chart of Bitcoin, the price movements. We see the price on the left side. And I specifically put out the events when I put out the Bitcoin peaks. That's what these red arrows are. The peaks before the fall. The bar graph at the bottom is the days of the bear market, days of the bull market, days of the bear market, days of the bull market. And I consider the bull market is the price passing the previous high. A bull market could be expanded by another definition, but that's what I used in this chart. So this is what I used in the chart. The days, the green area at the bottom are the days that it was past the previous high, right? Go back to November 29, 2013. Bitcoin hit an all-time high of 1242. Now there was a huge event that happened during that time, and it was the Mt. Gox MT Gox hack. When I think 10 to 20 or 30%, that was a big number, of Bitcoin got hacked in that system. It was the only exchange on the planet, and it got hacked, right? And the hackers stole like $50 million worth of Bitcoin, which don't seem like a lot today, but it was a lot back then. With the price of it was a lot, you know. It was a lot of Bitcoins back then. And a lot of people thought Bitcoin was done. It was over. It's never coming back, right? So Bitcoin, it took 133 days for Bitcoin to crash down to $340, right? And then it stayed in a bear market for almost 4 years, 1,400 days in a bear market. It took to 2017 before it passed the previous high again, right? And one thing you'll see about these numbers is that they're getting shorter every time. That's something that's going to happen too. So March 3rd, 2017, we passed the previous high. So remember the Bitcoin halving was right before that, July of 2016. So we look at that, it's about 9 months after it hit a high. It passed the previous high, 9 months after the first halving, right? So then 7 months later, 8 months later, Bitcoin reaches an all-time high of $19,000. That's roughly a 12, 13 time return, right? Then there was a crash again. And then it took 1,000 days roughly to reach its high again, which happened again in November 30th, 2020. We all remember that. Bitcoin passed the previous high again. So it took about 1,000 days, right? And then it had a bull run after that for about 345 days. But remember, the halving was May 11th of 2020. May, June, July, August, September, October, November. 7 months after that, it reached its high again. 7 months, right? And then it goes all the way up to 67,000, starts going back down again. So right now, when I made this chart, which was about a month ago, we were like 410 days into the Bitcoin bear market, right? So we're roughly right now, probably about roughly 500 days in. So we got about 300 more days, maybe 400 more days from today of the Bitcoin bear market. About 400 more days left. So can you guys hear me? He claims, somebody says they can't hear me. No, the sound went off. The sound's there. You guys can't hear me? Yeah, I don't know. Some people say they can hear, but the sound's there. So let's move on. So like I said, is we're going to talk about two more things. I'm going to talk about Airbnb, and then we're going to talk about real estate, and then we're going to let you guys go for the night. So this is actually a long strategy Sunday. So it's probably going to go over tonight. But last two things I want to talk about is Airbnb, right? Is that I think Airbnb is going to be a good, solid investment for the next year. Now, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you what I'm doing because, and it's two reasons for that, right? Is that during the pandemic, there was a lot of people who switched from working office jobs to remote jobs, right? And what that did is that it opened up a lot of people to more travel. And Airbnb has been one of the companies that have benefited greatly from that. So I think Airbnb, with all that being said, Airbnb is booking record profits. Cash flow is soaring. A lot of people are choosing to live in Airbnbs because of the way that the rent prices and the home prices are, which is I thought that'd be pretty interesting. A lot of people are living in Airbnbs. I wonder if you guys know that a lot of people are living in Airbnbs. They have remote jobs and they're going from place to place. They'll live somewhere for 3 months in an Airbnb, then they'll live somebody else for 3 months in an Airbnb, and they'll live somewhere else for 3 months, 6 months in an Airbnb. Some people are living their lives in Airbnbs. And that's what, those type of people, let me see, I got this thing here. 16% of Airbnb's bottom line, that means what they make from people, is based on people living in Airbnbs like that. Long-term rentals of Airbnbs, which I thought was amazing. And I actually got, and I actually talked about this, Stephanie's right, I talked about this 2 years ago. I said this would happen. And it's nice to see that in the actual documents that they said this would happen. And it's good for me because I'm working on Airbnb right now. So, so hopefully somebody live in mine and pay me 3 times the value. So hopefully. So that's my first entry into Airbnb. So last thing I want to talk about, we may have to leave XRP off because we're running over, but real estate is that I want to talk a little bit about real estate, where I think it's going to go and what I'm doing with it. And a lot of people ask me, Armando, you think real estate's going to continue to go up, go down, or whatever? And I'm going to tell you what I think is happening in real estate, right? And it's a few things that's causing a market of stagnation. I don't think the price of real estate is going to drop much. Hopefully, the rate of the loan rate will drop, and that'll allow a lot more people to get into houses or invest in houses. But I don't think the overall price of houses are going to drop. And I'll tell you why. Because one thing is that the rates are high. People say, well, Armando, the rates are high. That means people can't buy houses, so people can't sell them. Yeah, but people ain't selling houses either because they don't want to pay them rates on the next house. You see what I'm saying? If I have a $500,000 house that I'm only paying 2-3% on, why would I sell it? Because if I sell it, my next mortgage is going to be 7-8%. So I'm not moving. I'm just going to stay here. So now that causes a situation in which the inventory is low, which means like I've been looking for houses to invest. So it's very difficult to find homes because of this, because the rates actually are causing people to hold on to their houses they live in right now longer. So that means that it's causing a situation of low inventory. Also, like I said, is that people aren't selling their houses. The population is growing because all these new kids are graduating college or whatever. The new generation Zers is a big generation, and they're coming out to buy houses. So I don't think housing is going to drop much, maybe 10% over the next 2 years. Maybe that. It's not going to go down 50%. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the prices of homes are almost at a point to where unless the inventory increases, I don't see the prices going down short term, right? And that's what I think. So a lot of people hold on to the house. I'm buying more real estate. And like I always tell people always say this is bad. People always hate when I say this. And I don't understand this, is that I'm investing right now in condominiums. And people always, and I'm a mathematical, data-driven person. I try not to think about emotions and I got to pay him and he's going to take my money. A lot of times people get in situations like that to where they're worried about what the last person paid versus what I paid. I don't care about that. I'm looking at numbers. If I buy this, what's the return on investment going to be? So you buy a condo, you get condos for $120,000 still. I mean, it's not going to be the best condo, $120,000. People are going to come back at you and say, what about the condo association fees that could change at any time? People always come at me with that. And I say, well, yeah, taxes can change at any time. A lot of things about you live in a homeowner association, it can change at any time. That's something that you can't control. In most cases, condo association fees will handle the outside. They like the other day, they painted the entire outside of my condo. The whole building, brand new paint. Everything was redone. They painted my balcony. They painted my door. So it looks like a brand new condominium. I didn't pay for that. The condo association fees paid for that. The pool in the back, they pay for that. The groundskeeper, they pay for. I don't have to pay for, like at my other house, I got to pay $100 a month for somebody to come out and do the grass. I don't have to pay for water. The condo association pays for the water. I don't have to pay full insurance because part of that condo association fees covers the outside building insurance. So that $400 or $500 I pay per month is not to own the place. That's what people get confused about condos. Is I'm paying this, I'm basically paying rent. No, you're not. You're paying maintenance fees to your own property, which you would have to pay somewhere else. You got to pay water. You got to pay full insurance at a house, full insurance, because you own the outside and the inside. With a condo, you only own the inside. So your insurance is way cheaper, way cheaper. You can short-term rent it. You can rent it out. You got property that's appraising in value. Mine went up 40, 50% since I bought it 2 years ago. It's just like any other property. You can gut it out, do whatever you want on the inside. In some cases, condos are a better way to go. And a lot of people don't like it. And the reason is so many people are against condos. The market's almost wide open. Because so many people are driven by emotion. Condos, I got to pay $400 rent. They don't understand it's not rent. It's maintenance. So the competition for condos right now are not as steep as houses. So it's a slick way you can get in on some real estate. So last thing I want to talk about, I'll talk a little bit about XRP. But just a couple of sentences. Before we go, I need you guys to like the content, share the content. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, I need you to subscribe right now. I'm gonna give you 5 to 10 seconds. Subscribe to the channel right now. Share the live with when you get off of here, share the recording with your friends. Also, make sure you join the CNC. The price right now is $67 a month. Next month, it's going to be $87. And every time I've told you guys this, I've moved the price up. If you get in at $67 a month today, I'll tell you this. First of all, I'll tell you, you'll never get a price increase on that. And 2, if you don't get 3 times your money back in a month, and you actually put the effort, and you did, you put the effort, you learned or whatever, I'll give you your money back, and I'll give you 3 months of the CNC for free. Because every single I don't know anybody. I think one person took that deal out of hundreds of people in the CNC. Because we do make money. And if you're making money in the CNC, I need you to drop those money bags in the chat. And the SEC actually came down with a ruling on money bags. They said it was actually giving financial advice. But I researched that because Mark actually told me. I researched it, and it actually applies when you're like right next to a stock. Like if I say Nvidia, money bag, rocket chips, that's financial advice. If I say drop the money bags, if you made money, is not financial advice. I want to clear that up. That's just an affirmation of you making money. So like I said, like the content if you're still here. Last thing I want to talk about is XRP. So, like I said, XRP is, I still think it's still a good play. SEC is still holding this lawsuit down, man. Like I told you, is that the U.S. government, when they're about to lose something, they don't like to lose. So they're like spoiled kids. They'll just delay it. And that's what they're doing now. So the judge is supposed to make a decision in the next 2 months, right? He's supposed to execute a summary judgment. And whatever this ruling is, positive and negative, it's going to have a big, big impact on cryptocurrency. It's going to have a huge impact on cryptocurrency, right? So TY said they sent a text and DM and got no reply. So yeah, if not, you can always click the link. I'm gonna put the link over there. You guys, I'll put the link here. I'm gonna put the link over in the chat too, so you click this link. So like I said, is that I think that a judgment is coming in the next 2 to 3 months. And I think that immediately after there's going to be a spike in the price of XRP. But like I said, like I told you guys, what's XRP at right now? 40-something cents. I don't think it's going to be, like I said, if it's number 6, 36 cents, it's going down. So this is what I think is going to happen, is that there'll be a judgment. I think XRP or Ripple is going to win. I think immediately we're going to see a 5 times, 6 times increase in Ripple, in XRP. I think within 2 weeks will be a 5 times, 6 times, 600% gain, 500% gain. And the rest of that gain is going to happen over the next, into the next halving, into 2025. So like I said, 36 cents, Ripple can go to $36 in the next boom. So that means if you're looking at today and you're looking at the peak of 25, it could be 100 times gain on that particular crypto. And that's the last crypto out there where there's even this potential's at. That's the last crypto out there where the potential even remains of that kind of gain. Bitcoin cannot go up 100 times. If Bitcoin went up 100 times, it would be $2 million a coin. That's impossible. There's not even enough money in the financial system for that to even happen. Ethereum would have to go up. And Ethereum, if it went up 100 times, it would be $100,000 a token. Those kind of opportunities don't exist anymore in crypto, except with XRP. And it's because of this weird situation we're in with the federal government. So with that being said, I give you guys a couple of minutes to ask any questions. I'll let you guys go for the night. Before you leave, make sure you subscribe to the channel and make sure you like this content. Brian Garcia has a good point. How about adoption? Right? I mean, I'm assuming you're referring to XRP. Now, adoption ain't gonna really come. Mass adoption, that's what we have built into that 500% return after the lawsuit's over. It's built into that. So after that's over, there's 3 things gonna happen after, if it's a good chance that XRP will win the lawsuit. And if XRP wins that lawsuit, what's gonna happen immediately after is that there's going to be, XRP will be added on back onto every exchange within weeks. The demand for XRP is going to go up. Now, all these companies that have been on the sidelines, they have technical integrations with XRP, maybe have contracts, maybe have agreements. They're going to execute all those agreements in rapid succession, 3, 4, 5 weeks. All of this is going to happen in a month, maybe 2 months. All the partnerships, everything will come right back in and it will rush into the ecosystem. And that's what's going to be cause XRP to go up 5, 6 times from where it's at today. Hawk Vision says, depending on the XRP ruling, will it be listed automatically? Now, the good thing about it is that I used to be a software engineer, so I kind of know how things like this work. I still am a software engineer. I just don't do it anymore. But in my heart, is still a software engineer. I stopped 3 years ago. I still do development for fun. But what probably happened on the exchanges is that they just hid XRP from view. So it's just probably a button, or they commented the code out or whatever they did. maybe a database entry to hide it from view. So once XRP lawsuit is over, all most places got to do is just flip a switch to get it back on. So it's going to be rapid. That's what I'm saying. Probably the next day, 100 exchanges will add XRP back within days because they already had it on there. They just got to flip the switch back on. So that's what's going to happen. It's not going to be automatic, but it will be close to automatic. Somebody will have to go in and actually flip that switch, but it's going to happen rapidly. So Zerovla, will this be available for rewatch? Yeah, it'll be available for rewatch. Yeah, Brian says all of these exchanges are accumulating, if not already holding XRP. I agree with you. I know that Coinbase bought like $20 million worth of XRP 7 months ago. So, because they want to be ready on day one to sell it. That's what it is. Because crypto exchanges don't make money off of the cryptos. They make money off the fees. So 20 million is going to just go back and forth in their ecosystem while they're going to cut each time it goes across back and forth. So they had to have some on standby. It's like Monopoly money, right? So when you play Monopoly with your family, that money just goes back and forth between y'all. But what if you made a cut every time somebody had to pay somebody? So pretty soon, with enough time, all the money would be yours. Let's say every time somebody did a trade, let's say you had a Monopoly game that was never ending, right? And I didn't want to play, but I'm just going to, every time somebody has to pay rent or pay for something, I just want 10%. Now let's say I want 5%. Every time somebody has to pay. With enough time, I will have all the money. And that's what exchanges do. So it don't matter how much money is there. I'm in between every transaction. Eventually, I'll have it all. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a great night. Thanks for joining. Hope you can join the CNC tonight. If you can't, DM me. And if you're in the CNC, get ready for the after party right now.